So let's just take a moment to remember that in this moment, we are human and that we can collectively gather. So to be human is an honor, and we offer thanksgiving for all the gifts of life. Mother Earth, we thank you for giving us everything that we need, the blue waters all around. Mother Earth, you are the force that takes thirst away from all living things. We thank you for the green grasses and the cool beauty that you bring to the Mother Earth's floor. We thank you for the good foods for making us happy when we are hungry. And we are thankful for the fruit, the berries, and the good medicine herbs for healing us when we are sick. Thank you for the animals for keeping our precious forest clean, and to all the trees for the shade and warmth that you give to us.
Super excited to have everybody here. Not gonna lie, I'm a little nervous. So if I start talking fast, I'll kind of try to pause and catch a breath. But super excited to see, so much support out there too. So I'm thankful for everybody's time. Yeah, so this was definitely a collective effort. So this presentation was, definitely a collective effort between the Youth Council and our leadership. So I'm just thankful to be able to be the one to bring this information to you guys and, share time together today. So Lily's great mind came up with the title for building Mohawk Futures across colonial borders. So you'll learn a little bit more about that presentation throughout the presentation. And this is just kind of an aerial shot of a part of our territory, one of the international bridges that run through our territory. And I just wanted to share, and I think Lily, I'll be happy to share this presentation to anybody after that would like any more information. These were just some of the beautiful words that Maddie shared. So I wanted to make sure they were available to everybody. Okay, so today's presentation is just to learn more about the Akwesasne Youth Council. So I'm happy that my members were able to join us today. So I'm gonna pass it to them just to share a little bit about themselves. And we're kind of gonna share just a snippet of where they grew up, where they went to school, and where they're currently at now. So I'll pass that over to, we'll start off with Maddie.
So I'm Madison White. Most people call me Maddie. My Mohawk name is Yaganolahawi, which means she brings the rain. And I would like to thank all my fellow Akwesasne members for the rain that I'm bringing today. So I grew up in St. Regis, which is a territory located in Quebec. I was born in New York State, and I went to school in Ontario, and I'm currently residing in Ontario. So you can get a grasp of how confusing that is and all the documentation that comes with it. So while everyone likes to perceive the dual citizenship that we're granted as, oh, so cool and interesting, it's actually a lot of burden put upon us when it comes time to turn 18 and apply for school, because there's so much history and involvement with the foreign entities put upon us. On top of that, I'm a single mother to a 4-year-old boy. I'm the oldest sister of 14 younger siblings. I'm a law student. I'm a full spectrum doula, helping to bring home birth into our communities so we can have born and raise Akwesasne children where we don't have to force that upon our future generations. So thank you for listening to the introduction, and next I'll pass it on to Montana Adams. Nyawa.
Nyawa Maddie. So Sego, Gowenji Jawis Yugyat, what's Galevage. My name is Montana Adams, and my Mohawk name is Gowanji Jawis, which means visions of flowers, and I'm Bear Clan. And I grew up kind of going back and forth between the Ontario and Quebec side of Akwesasne, so back and forth between Cornwall Island and Snai. I went to school throughout my elementary in on territory because we have a system, AMBI system, that we have for like our own children. And then I went to high school in Ontario, and then I went on to go to my undergrad, and I'm currently in my graduate studies at the University of Ottawa. I pursue theater, and I'm currently working on my thesis that has to do a lot with community narrative. And I'm using a case study of a folk, well, it was a real historical event that happened, but it's kind of turned into like a folklore nowadays. I'm writing a play about that, and then I'm going to do like a reflection on what my words mean. And yeah, I've done like a lot of theater in Ottawa, and I lived in Ottawa for 5 years, and then I found that I needed to return home because I was just so homesick. So I currently reside in Akwesasne on the Ontario portion, on Cornwall Island. So I literally live in the front yard of my mother's house, which is very nice. It was exactly what I needed after 5 years of being away. So thank you for allowing us to hold space here.
So, Sago everyone, Wahesla Yungyets. My name is Wahesla. It means she moves about in Ganyakaha. I'm from Akwesasne, born and raised in Gisnaina, also known as Snai, which is a Quebec portion of Akwesasne. So I was born and raised there. I went to like primary school through the Akwesasne Mohawk Board of Education. So I was on the Canadian side. And then for junior high up into secondary school, I went to school in Messina, New York, which is a local town right next to the reservation. After high school, I went to SUNY Plattsburgh, also in New York, and there I graduated with my bachelor's in public relations with a double minor in journalism and marketing. So I was one of the lucky students in Akwesasne where throughout my like summer student experience and summer employment experience throughout the community, a few times I was placed with the communications unit for the Mohawk Council of Akwesasne. So I got lucky a few months after I had graduated and they had opened up a spot, and I've been here since December 2017, I believe. So it's been a few years that I've been here. I've been loving it, love working in communications, and I've been on the youth council since September 2018, I believe. So yeah, that's my quick little intro. I'll bring it back to you, Mia, for the presentation. Yawa, everyone.
Yeah, ladies, that was amazing. Thank you for leaning in and sharing those bits about yourself. And as you can see, we bring a lot of diversity and strength to this youth council. So it's been an honor to serve with them. And I couldn't think of a better way to kind of, go off and onto the next journey. So I'll share a little bit about myself. My name is Mia Francis Nikaji Ja'a, meaning little flower. It was given to me by my great grandmother. Being the daughter of a 4th generation iron worker, typically the males would go off to the cities to work, and the families and the wives would stay home. They'd go off to Chicago or New York City. A lot of Mohawk men were known as skywalkers, building the different skylines in the different cities, also within Toronto, internationally. So my dad ended up in Philadelphia. So I was actually born and raised in New Jersey. I went to school in Philadelphia, where I received my BA in psychology with a minor in criminal justice. And we would always come back to Akwesasne for family events and holidays, but I was always fully connected here, and New Jersey never really fit. So when I had the opportunity to move back, I did. And I was actually going to school. I chose to go to school in Ottawa to get my master's when my grandparents fell ill, and I kind of had to make the choice of either taking care of them full time or going back to school. And I kind of knew school would always be there. And I never for once regretted that decision. My grandfather is no longer with us, but he is with me every day. And those 3 years I got to spend by his side. And the youth council was kind of there with me throughout the whole thing. So I've been on a journey with these girls. So super excited to kind of pass our successes together and to share that with you guys today. Awesome. So we'll move on to the next. So just a quick run through of the agenda. I'm going to try to make it kind of short and sweet, but we're going to get a little tidbit of the history, the geography, some of the challenges we have with our community of Akwesasne, some of the history and what we do as the Akwesasne Youth Council, some of our approaches that we've been successful with empowering Indigenous youth, and then our lessons learned as we reflect on our preparing our home workshop that we had a chance to host. Okay, so I'm going to take a quick, we're going to take a snippet of some of the complexities of our community. This map over here that you can see kind of shows a picture of what our traditional lands used to be, and then what we are now reduced to on a reservation, as it would be called. So you can kind of just look at the numbers from this map. Just the Mohawk alone, we went from 9.9 million acres to now on under 15,000 acres. So that's a huge loss of land, culture, people. And then this map shows just a snippet of the current jurisdictions within Akwesasne. And as you can see, we span through Ontario, Quebec, New York State. We span 2 counties within New York State. So it can get pretty complicated across the board. So this is just kind of like a visual to help show that. So one thing about this slide, I want to share a little bit of history about this slide. When I was making it, I first called it the jurisdictional nightmare. And I didn't like that because I didn't like framing it in a negative thing. And when I said that this presentation was a collaboration, one of the things that one of our leadership shared was to remind us that all of these rights that we have make us very distinct, and we fought for every right that we do have. So it's not a nightmare. It may seem like it on some days, but it makes us a very distinct nation. We have some rights that, you know, are solely ours, and we fought for every one of them. So I just kind of wanted to frame this slide with that. As you can see, we have a very complex background, a very complex identity, and a very complex leadership. We're a community of 13,000 people. We straddle 2 countries, 1 state, 2 provinces. You know, we also have 2 different communities that are very close to us that we've seen. And, you know, the pandemic has highlighted a lot of these complexities, right? The pandemic was complex enough, let alone adding all these layers. And I kind of wanted to frame this too, that we are by no means an expert in all this complexity, but we're just acknowledging the diverse and complex history of our people and our community. So I did want to take like a pause on this slide and just kind of open it up to see if any of my youth council members had anything to add, or anybody in the sharing circle, because I know this is kind of a lot of information.
I just wanted to say that I think it's cool, like with the jurisdictional distinction, say that 5 times fast. It like, obviously it can be a frustrating area for our community to deal with, but like Mia said, there are still some pros and advantages to it. And I think with considering our unique geography, I think Akwesasne has been put in a position to be a leading First Nation in terms of like fighting for our rights and coming to agreements with different types of like all the different like government arms and branches and things like that. So I think that's just something interesting to keep in mind. Like there's different treaties and agreements that have been put in place that are very specific to our community that not a lot of other communities have obviously had the chance to deal with. There's only so many reservations and other First Nations that are landlocked the way we are, have the interesting like, you know, both provinces, 2 different countries kind of thing. So I think that definitely makes us a leader, definitely like pioneering in terms of our rights and everything.
I'll just add very briefly that when Mia was presenting at the Preparing Our Home National Gathering, and she just explained the way she presented there, just her day in life of Mia Francis and how she drives through one border to another, then drives back, and there was a complete like stunned silence. And Chris Garreau, who's a counselor in Saskatchewan, said, you know, you kind of think things are kind of complicated at home, and then you hear something like that and you're just in complete awe, the complexity that people have to deal with. But I love that your leadership framed this as distinction. I think language really matters. We've been really kind of hanging on to this deficit-based language, and it's so important to pivot into this space of strength. So I that will really stay with me, Mia, that every one of these things was a hard-fought right. And I'm really grateful for that framing that your elders and the leadership brought to you. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you, Lily. And I can't see anybody else the way my screen is. So if anybody else has anything to say, just feel free to jump in. You can cut me off. It's okay. Okay, cool. So that kind of brings us into our leadership, you know, and on that token of being so complex, we're kind of split into these three, politically split into these three entities. So there's the St. Regis tribe, which is the US recognized tribe. There's the Mohawk Council of Akwesasne, which is the Canadian Band Council, which is where our youth council kind of falls under. And then there's also the Mohawk Nation Council of Chiefs, which is the Haudenosaunee recognized nation, the traditional leadership. And all of those entities kind of have their own structures within. So that just adds a layer of complexity, right? But Akwesasne has worked really hard to develop intricate community services despite these deeply complex jurisdictional issues. Because if you're a leader in a community, or you know, just living in a community, you know how all these structures are very complicated on their own, but then adding in all of these jurisdictional differences, it definitely adds on to this complexity. So I believe our leadership over the years has fought really hard for everything we have. And I think it's really important to acknowledge that. So a little history about the Akwesasne Youth Council. I just wanted to share a little bit of the past. So the structure of the Youth Council was established back in 2010. It's usually 6 youth ages 18 to 29. They hold staggered 2 to 3 year terms. The way we have ours is that there's 2 representatives from each of our 3 districts. There's Goanoge, which is Cornwall Island, Ganadago, which is St. Regis, and G-Snine, which we refer to as Snai. And we are under the Canadian jurisdiction. So each of us all comes from one of those 3 districts. So then jump to our present AYC. I think we all kind of I started around 2018 and everybody kind of filed in after that. We are an all female council, which I think really speaks to like our Mohawk matriarchy, right? I think it's a real representation of leadership and the strong Mohawk women. You know, I think we all kind of carry our ancestors on our back and look towards the future. And I think just our council in general really represents that. You guys all heard, we all come from a variety of backgrounds, bringing our strengths. And I think bringing our strengths has also helped us work on our weaknesses, because we know where we hold each other accountable, where, you know, one of us might have a blind spot for an expertise that we don't know, but we all come from such diverse backgrounds. We really been able to balance each other out. Some of the things we're working on is the last terms of reference was amended in 2015. So one of the things we're working on is to amend that. And I think that's part of our empowerment, is kind of shaping these policies and, you know, and it also holds our council accountable for the needs of the youth, because they're always changing, right? That's a long time ago, 2015, you know, for what that represents, and we really wanted to change it. So we actually crafted this strategic plan, which we're really excited to share with you guys. So we were really blessed to have, you know, our communications guru, Waheso. She's real crafty at, you know, bringing our ideas together in a shareable format. So we were able to present this to our council as kind of our map forward of what we want to see in our community, what we want to bring. The mission of the Akwesasne Youth Council is to educate, empower, and advocate for the young people in our community. of course, our aim is to support and represent our youth as a means of creating a strong, sustainable future for the next 7 generations. And we worked really hard on making sure that all of our ideas were represented in this. So I'm kind of going to open the floor to see if any of my youth council members want to lean in to kind of share our core pillars. If anybody wants to take a stab at it.
I can do it. That's for sure.
Thank you, Alyssa.
No problem. I got you, Mia. But no, for this strategic plan, the strategy map that we had made, I just think that, especially like this was a big result of the pandemic and just kind of essentially feeling, powerless and getting used to all the guidelines and everything. I just feel like we were kind of at a standstill. So we just wanted to regroup, kind of go over some of our objectives for the Youth Council and really just kind of hone in on some of our strengths and what we feel that we can bring to the community. So the core pillars that we had decided on, just to keep it simple, we kept it with 4. So we have education, culture, community, and wellness. So some of these are relatively self-explanatory, but education-based, something that we really want to do is obviously promote education, but not just in a traditional student sense. So obviously we want our youth to go out to their post-secondary institutions and have success and not feel either misguided or lost or unsupported. So that's something we want to be able to provide for them, but also for our students who do go the non-traditional route, or they're going to trade schools or doing apprenticeships and other things like that. So that's where we really wanted to focus in on that pillar. The next one we have is culture. Again, a little bit self-explanatory. So utilizing more language, promoting all of that, and traditional knowledge, like using our traditional medicines more in different types of practices and incorporating that into our daily life. So then our youth in Akwesasne can just be a more well-rounded. If that makes sense. So, and then we have community, just having general community engagement and knowledge of the resources that are available in Akwesasne. I think kind of going back to that jurisdictional distinction, one of the issues we have is because there's all these different factions that we get our laws and our bylaws and everything from in direction, it can be confusing placing what applications go where. How do I go about this, like this process to, I don't know, maybe get a housing loan or other things like that. So being able to support them and then offer those resources. And then wellness we have, that's just a general physical health and mental health based pillar that we really want to be supporting our youth with. So again, like I said, some of these are a little bit self-explanatory, but these are the 4 core areas that we really felt like we wanted to focus on as a council.
Thanks for that, Wahid. So yeah, so we're excited to share this with everybody. And it kind of just gives you an idea of, it's kind of our roadmap to move forward, right? And we also, I wanted to note too, one thing we've been working on is a portfolio. So our chiefs follow like a portfolio system of like what interests they have. So us as the Youth Council have kind of crafted this portfolio mentorship program. So that way our needs are kind of, under the leadership, and we can kind of know what's going on at the community level. So there's been a lot of effort put into that, and council's been really receptive of that. Our leadership has always been super supportive. So we just wanted to share a little bit about our community engagement. We've held quite a bit of workshops when the cannabis legislation was rolling out in Canada. We did some Think Green sessions just to, get information out to youth. Find out what gaps there were that information needed to be shared. We also we hosted the Independent First Nations Youth Working Group has an annual conference every year. I think it was in 2019. They chose the theme of justice. And we couldn't think of a better place to discuss justice than in Akwesasne. So we actually hosted it on Thompson Island. It's an island right in the middle of the St. Lawrence River. You can only get there by boat. So you can imagine trying to coordinate a youth conference, just in general, but then multiple of our youths had to go through a variation of almost every type of transportation, from a plane to a bus to a car to a boat. So it was very interesting, and definitely highlighted some of the jurisdiction things that we as Akwesasne youth go through every day. So it was interesting to be able to share that with youth all from over Ontario. And Jonathan actually came out to join us to do the paddle carving workshop. So a lot of our youth got to go back to their communities with a nicely carved paddle. And it definitely facilitated some great conversations. Last year, we were able to hold a Dutta Holla Drive. We have two kind of chronic care old age facilities within our territory. So we were able to do a community drive for some gifts and goodies for all the Duttas. So they had some presents to open on Christmas Day. So that was something we really enjoyed doing. We also have been called upon to kind of share our experiences as youth. A lot of us go through both borders multiple times a day. It's just the natural occurrence here. So the Canadian Border Service Agency, we have a very interesting history with them, but they've been really receptive in the past years of rebuilding those relationships. And one of the things that they do is they hold new officer kind of cultural trainings. We were called upon a couple of times to just share our experiences as youth. Like Lily said, what it's like in the day of, somebody that lives, at the time I was living in Quebec, working in Ontario, but to get to Ontario, you have to go through New York State. So every day having to cross the either the American or the Canadian border. It definitely takes a lot of our time. But it is good that they're trying to rebuild some relations that may have been damaged in the past. We also are pretty connected to our Akwesasne Mohawk Board of Education. They were working on some projects, just building relations with neighbor community of Cornwall, Ontario. Our schools only go up until 8th grade. So many of our students either have to choose between going to New York State or going to the provincial school in our neighbor community. So they're trying to kind of build relationships from the bottom up by starting with students, right? Because I think there's a lot of relationship mending that can be done with our neighboring communities as well. Between us, we're involved in a variety of different, international communities. The beauty of Akwesasne is that we are dual citizens. So you'll find any program we're in, we kind of make it international, just being who we are. So I think that's really cool. Right now, one of the projects we're working on is to build this community-based education map. Waheso spoke to the importance of education in our post-secondary students. And it is very difficult navigating, where am I supposed to get money from? Where do your parents file taxes? What side do they work on? Where is their income from? It gets very confusing. And so a lot of our young people are just left like, I don't know where to go, so I'm not, you get lost in the sauce type of thing. So one of these ideas is to build this education app where, it's a one-stop shop for youth of Akwesasne to find the resources they need. So super excited to begin developing that. And one of the things that we're really advocating for is to have a youth coordinator position because with the Youth Council, I think one thing to note is that we all hold full-time jobs. We have a single mother in the group. I was a full-time caretaker while I was on the Youth Council holding a full-time job. So we all have multiple plates spinning. Some of us are full-time students while holding full-time jobs and the Youth Council. And it is a lot of work and it takes time and dedication. So I think one of the things that we want to keep this momentum going is to have a youth coordinator that kind of has the ins and outs of like Mohawk Council and can kind of work as a liaison. So we just kind of wanted to share that if there was any youth out there that are, you know, looking to start up a youth council, we just wanted to kind of share some of the ins and outs of our development and how things are moving forward. Yeah, so I'll kind of take a pause there too. I know that was a lot of information. So kind of take a breath and open up the floor if anybody has any comments.
I would like to touch back on the international involvement. I know in our previous meeting, it was really nice for Chief Connie to put the input of that our youth council is exempt from the border in a way. Like when we look at serving our youth, we're not, oh, you live on this part, oh, you live here. It's no matter what, our youth is being served by our youth council. So I think that's one of the most important parts of the community engagement is we're not looking at location for our youth.
Yeah, and just to give people an idea of the scale, like when you're talking, for example, Akwesasne Mohawk Board of Education, how many people do you work with on average?
So underneath the Akwesasne Board of Education, there's three elementary schools. We have a variety of Head Start programs. They also have a post-secondary institute. It's called Yohahio, where it's like, you know, a lot of our community members, you know, go and get their 1 or 2 year degrees there. And it's also really influenced by the need of the community. So I think that's a big success of our community. We hold, I'm trying to think of like a ballpark amount of students, maybe like 800, like K-8 students, maybe. I might be way off. I'm trying to think of the numbers offhand, but it is
pretty close there.
Oh, good. Oh yeah, Debbie's here. She's my partner in crime. Thanks, Debbie.
Yeah.
Oh, and Mia too, don't forget, we also have TR Leger, so that's a adult / alternative / continuing institution, along with all of the daycares. So there's the 3 district schools that are in, we listed, there's the Island, St. and Snai, and then there's also daycare programs within each of those districts too. So before, the childcare didn't fall under AMBI, but now it does. So that just combines it and ups our numbers even more.
You also want to be inclusive of the high schools around you.
Right, because the Freedom School is also falls a little bit under the board, and there's agreements with 2 of the provincial boards, the Catholic Board and the Upper Canada Board, for the high school students.
Yes, that's what I was mentioning too. Is the high schools? You have high schools all around you that our kids go to, so you, yeah, you have to keep those numbers included.
Yeah, and I was really proud because I heard a lot of the youth council members went through a lot of the AMBI schools. So I'm very proud of you all.
Thanks for the support, Debbie. Really appreciate it. Awesome. So like I said, I can't really see everybody, so just feel free to jump in. So we get to share a little bit about, we were lucky enough to host, I met Lily when I went out to the first Preparing Our Home workshop all the way out in BC. We got to stay on this beautiful land, you know, and I got to meet some amazing people. And afterwards, Lily presented the opportunity for us to host our own workshop in Akwesasne. So that was super exciting. I believe Waheso was around for when we hosted the first one.
You
so
mean
it was
that bottom right square?
Yeah, repping the purple. So from this, it was kind of a hazard awareness and rediscovering resilience within culture. So from this, we were able to develop a community-based resilience plan. So it was really cool to do some like mapping of where hazards were, where our safe zones were. We had a community volunteer come and talk to some of the hazards that have happened in our community. There was the ice storm of 1996, where I believe our community was out of power for a very extended amount of time. And then you'll see in this picture right here, were by one of the rivers that flooded not too long ago. So it was really cool to go back to that space and kind of talk about like, you know, what happened and how can we prepare for the next one, because the reality of it is we live all around hazards. There's water all the way around us. You know, there's international ports. So after we had a 1 full day workshop, and one thing to share is, so we had about 15 youth with us, and to go from spot to spot, we started in Ontario, and then the spot we had to go to was in New York State, but then we had to go back to Ontario. So we had one of the school buses. We had about 15 youth on this school bus. And normally when a school bus goes through, they just go through because it's normal traffic, but we're all young adults. So above a certain age, you have to produce like ID, right? We're not in K to 12, right? So when we had to go through, we didn't necessarily account for the amount of time that would take. Having to go through US Customs, everybody had to pull out their tribal IDs, they had to run it in, scan them all, come back out, you know, do the whole bit, you know, and it took a good chunk of time, which we didn't put in the agenda, but the good thing was we were all very flexible throughout the day because it's just how the life is here. So I just kind of wanted to make that point too. But some of our top strengths was our community support. The fact that we have access to a lot of learning and training, and that we have access to both countries. I think making us dual citizens definitely gives us multiple advantages that we've had to work hard for. And I don't even like necessarily the terms of advantage, because we were here way before these international borders were placed here. Like about 50 yards from me, there's this old concrete post, and it's got a tab on it, and that's literally the border between Quebec and New York State. You know, this was all our land before that post was even put there in 18 whatever, you know, so these borders, we were always here first. So I just kind of wanted to point that out. And then some of our top weaknesses is, you know, there's a lot of factories around us. There's an Alcoa factory. There was a lot of dumping into our waters. Just through colonialism, there's been a lot of loss of culture. There's a shipping channel through the St. Lawrence River with the locks, like we have like a shipping locks that goes through. So there's a lot of hazards around us within our beautiful lands. But some of the things that were both a strength and a weakness were those things, which is like living on a border, having international bridges, and just being surrounded by water. And I think that just speaks to our complexity.
Mia, I just wanted to jump in and say something. Yeah. This isn't, like this information wasn't taken from the workshop that we held in the summer of 2019, but I just wanted to say too, just to help provide more perspective on one of our weaknesses. It's something that I've been dealing with recently. So like I said before, I was born and raised in Snai, which is on the Quebec portion, and currently I live in the New York State portion of Akwesasne. So something that I've always noticed, both living in Snai and even now living on the American side, is issues with I don't know, like mapping and I guess labeling of our area. So I think that could definitely be seen as a hazard, because right now it's not a hazard, but I had issues receiving an Amazon package because of labeling of my street. So what I know my street as is in like the local 911 system. And for all the mailing, it's a completely different road. So if I had to call 911 for whatever reason or somewhere outside, I don't know if they would have been able to get with me because of inaccurate labeling of our streets. It could just be because we have some Ganyageho words, the pronunciation, and just people's general like lack of knowledge of the area. So that's something I'm always conscious of. It goes back into the geography like weakness part, but yeah, just something to keep in mind too.
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out, Waheso. We're kind of, one of our directives is to engage in youth with discussions on the importance of pandemic protocols. We know that's been at the forefront of everybody, right, is getting community safety, right? So around vaccines, social distancing, being able to wear a mask, because we really are, it's not just for us, it's really for our community, our elders, our babies, so a lot of what we do, we're looking to look beyond the complexities of ourselves to be inclusive, right? I think one of my fellow youth members spoke to that, of breaking past different barriers that we've even encountered throughout our time as the Youth Council, right? Because we all know politics is always playing a part, right? So I think one thing we try to carry is to break past those, right? And this quote kind of stuck with me, and I believe it was Chief Connie who said it, but we really want to look to connect the past and the present to be able to move for the future, right? And I think that's super powerful, and I think that's a lot of the reasons why we joined the Youth Council, right? And continue to do this work. And I did miss a part where we developed our logo, which I shared on the PowerPoint, but that essence kind of speaks to it, right? When we designed it, that's really what we designed it around, was being that connection of the past. We know we're the present, but we're really working towards changing for the future. So with that, I want to say Nawa and thank you. And I really want to shout out my fellow Youth Council members for leaning in with me here today and helping me carry this out. And it's truly been amazing, being able to serve with you guys. So I see Chief Connie has her hand raised. And I'll go back, I'll stop the share so we can all see each other. There you go.
As I hear you say that, I'm getting used to the fact that Connie has her hand raised. Connie has her hand raised. Connie likes to ask questions in almost every meeting she's in. And I do that because it's if I don't know something, I want to know before I form an opinion on it. So it's always something good to do. But for this statement, I just want to thank all of you ladies for stepping up and being part of the Youth Council. I am completing my second term and I've not yet decided whether I will pursue a third term. I can tell you the job is tough. There's rewards and sometimes there's just a lot of upset people. But I can tell you that as long as you ladies continue to learn, and I hope that we've been able to inspire you as leaders to learn, because then I know my future is going to be a good future when I decide to no longer do this. And I look for my next generation to step up. And I know that you guys can do that. You have amazing minds and you work well together. And I can tell you that I'm very glad that when I started in council, we have a 12-person council and we were half and half. Actually, no, we were 5 women and 7 men. My second term, we moved to 7 women and 5 men. And I often teased, one day it will all be women. So you guys, I'm looking forward to seeing that before I leave this earth. But yeah, I'm very grateful for you ladies taking on this challenge. Watching you grow in the last 3 or 4 years, some less than that, but I've learned already just very quickly what you're capable of. So I thank you. And I look forward to my future as my leaders are sitting there. Now,
Connie, for those beautiful words. I think we really appreciate your leadership, and you've been a true support of what we're doing. So, for that.
I find it interesting that, it's your men that are known for the iron work, but it's the women that are made out of iron for sure.
It's really great to hear your stories and the obstacles and the things that you overcame, your journeys. Thank you for sharing that. It's when we get down, or when when we're pushing forward, and it's really good. It puts some more wind in our sails when you have young people such as yourselves coming in behind us, and I think it encourages. I feel very encouraged that your young women are coming behind us and being so powerful the way you are, and being intelligent, and just big wish for your hard work. And this certainly has motivated me to keep going forward. Thank you.
Yeah, for that, Darren. Thank you so much.
Hi, Ani Bonjour. My name is Alyssa McLeod. I am from Nipissing First Nation. I'm currently living in Toronto, though. So great to see Lily and Jonathan and Darlene. I went to Preparing Our Home conference gathering last year before the pandemic started. We got so lucky. I reflect on that so much. I think we got in about 2 weeks before the pandemic started. So that timing was just phenomenal. But I just want to say thank you for sharing today, Mia. I did join late today because I did have another prior commitment, but I was hoping to tune in and hear all the work that's been happening with the Youth Council, and the little bit I did get, it was so wonderful to hear and be inspired by the phenomenal work that's being done with the Youth Council. So thank you for sharing. Maybe there would be opportunity for collaboration in the future. I used to work at Native Child and Family Services, but I actually acquired a new role, and I'm in an Indigenous community engagement position now in like the Durham region, so Oshawa, Ontario area. So yeah, I just wanted to jump on and hear about the amazing work that other youth have been doing within the Ontario region, or close to the Ontario region if you're not in Ontario. But yeah, so miigwech for sharing, and much appreciated. Thank you for opening the space up for other community members. Miigwech.
Yeah, I'm just so impressed with all you ladies. You're so so organized, and I hope that we can get some of our youth here inspired to have a youth council and to start thinking forward. But also, I always forget that we have dual citizenship too, with Montana, state of Montana. And so we run into a lot of the same issues that you have, but sometimes it's not too bad, but sometimes it's bad. But it's something that we just, I guess, take for granted. We're so used to it. We've been at it for many years, going across the border. But everybody has to make sure they always have their tribal cards so that they can get across the borders without incident. But thank you for sharing your wisdom and all the work that you're doing for your communities.
Well, I just wanted to say how great it is to see Mia's face again. And as Mia mentioned, I did a paddle carving workshop with Lydia in 2019. And just the logistics of getting a simple thing like paddles from Ontario to the shoreline of Ontario is incredibly difficult. So the ability of Akwesasne to keep functioning under all of these constraints, just every time I think something's logistically challenging, I just think of Akwesasne and go, oh no, it's easy. I'm truly impressed with you guys. It's really impressive how you put it all together and make it work. It's amazing. Yeah.
How much we value her, like throughout like the entire time that she's been here. She's really been the one to kind of like take charge and to organize everyone. She did that all under like a volunteer honorarium basis. And we're just so lucky to have had her, and to kind of like, she is really sending us off on like such a good note. Like if you ever want to hire someone, hire Mia, she's amazing. But we are definitely going to miss her, and we're definitely going to feel the lack of her presence in our meetings going on forth. But we're so lucky to have had her in our youth council helping us. She put together this whole presentation, and then she shared it to us being like, oh, can you guys include everything? And I was looking at it, I was like, this is perfect. I don't know why she's asking for our input. But she always is that kind of thoughtful person who will reach out and like make sure that everybody's voice is heard, which is honestly such a big thing whenever it comes to leadership, especially within like our community, is that everyone's voices demands to be heard and deserves to be heard. So thank you, Mia. It's just a Mia hugging circle. But really excited.
You're gonna make me cry.
No, I just want you to know that like we really do appreciate you, okay? But yeah, no, this presentation has been really it really encompasses what we have been striving to do so far. And although this past year has been like really, really hard to kind of like get together, we were able to meet like as much as like, now that I'm like reflecting back on it, we were able to meet more often than like you would assume that one would meet during a pandemic. But yeah, no, it's been hard, but like we're going forward in like such a positive way. So yeah, thanks Mia, and thanks everyone for listening.
So amazing. Yeah, I couldn't think of a better way to kind of end such a beautiful chapter. Like even doing this presentation really gave me a good opportunity to reflect on like what we had accomplished, because you get so stuck in the day-to-day grunt of just on to the next one, keep moving forward, you know, and it was really good to go back and kind of celebrate what we had done and, you know, all the work that we put together. So grateful for this opportunity for sure. Thank you everybody for your time, for listening in. You know, it's so good to share space with people. I think a lot of us have been so isolated during the pandemic. It's really good to hold space with each other. So thank you so much, Lily, for being able to bring us all together here today. Pass it over to you, Maddie.
Okay, thank you for that, Mia. So let's just take a moment to decompress, have another few breaths here. I know it was a lot of information to not only output, but to also intake as well. And I know a lot of people are coming with good hearts and intentions, wondering what information they can take from us as examples. So I would like to thank you. To be human is an honor, and we offer thanksgiving for all gifts of life. Mother Earth, we thank you for giving us everything that we need, the blue waters all around. Mother Earth, you are the force that takes thirst away from all living things. We give thanks to the green grasses for the cool beauty that they bring to Mother Earth's floor. Thank you for the good foods for making us happy when we are hungry. We thank you for the fruit, the berries, and the good medicine herbs for healing us when we are sick. Thank you for the animals in the world for keeping our precious forest clean. Thank you to all the trees around and the shade and warmth that they give us. Thank you to all the birds for singing their beautiful songs for us to enjoy. We give thanks to the gentle four winds for bringing clean air for us to breathe from all four directions. Thank you, Creator, for the elements above our head, our thunder beings, our elder brother sun, our grandmother moon, and the stars above. At this time, we give special thanks to you and ask our spirit protectors for our past and present. We thank you all for showing us the ways to live in peace, harmony with one another. And most of all, thank you, Great Spirit Sungwe Dizo, for giving us these wonderful gifts so all of us gathered here today will be happy and healthy every day and night. We have now completed our task. We thank you, Creator, and everyone here for helping us accomplish what brought us here today. I now ask the Creator to stay with you as you leave here and return to your families. So it be in our minds, Nyawa.